तो आज की क्लास में देखते हैं सर्कुलर मोशन, यूनिफॉर्म सर्कुलर मोशन। तो आज की क्लास में देखते हैं यूनिफॉर्म सर्कुलर मोशन। So uniform circular motion says कि motion of a body along circumference of a circle with constant speed. That is called uniform circular motion. That is the uniform circular motion. Motion of a body along circumference of a circle with constant speed, that is the uniform circular motion. Next is angular displacement. So next is angular displacement. Angular displacement says कि angular distance covered by the body during circular motion. Angular distance covered by the body during circular motion. That is called angular displacement. Angular distance covered by the body during circular motion, that is the angular displacement. So angular displacement can be represented as theta equals to L by R. Angular displacement can be represented as theta equals to L by R. Angular displacement is represented as theta equals to L by R. Angular displacement theta equals to L by R. For anti-clockwise motion it is directed outward, and for clockwise motion it is directed inward. That is angular displacement. For anti-clockwise motion it is directed outward. For anti-clockwise motion it is directed outward. For anti-clockwise motion it is directed outward. For clockwise motion it is directed inward. For anti-clockwise motion it is directed outward. For clockwise motion it is directed inward. So that is angular displacement. Angular displacement says कि angular distance covered by the body during circular motion. That is angular displacement. Theta equals to L by R. That is the angular displacement. It is a vector quantity. Angular displacement is a vector quantity. Angular displacement is a vector quantity. Angular displacement is a vector quantity. So after angular displacement, next moving to the section that is angular velocity. So angular displacement theta equals to L by R. It is vector quantity. SI unit is radian. SI unit of angular displacement is radian. SI unit of angular displacement is radian. That is angular displacement. Next is angular velocity. Angular displacement, next is angular velocity. Angular displacement, next is angular velocity. Angular velocity, omega equals to how much? Omega equals to theta by t, that is angular velocity. Angular velocity, omega equals to theta by t, that is angular velocity. Angular velocity is defined as angular displacement per unit time, that is angular velocity. So it is defined as angular displacement per unit time taken. It is defined as angular displacement per unit time taken, that is angular velocity. SI unit of angular velocity is radian per second. SI unit of angular velocity is radian per second. For anti-clockwise motion, it is directed outward. For anti-clockwise motion, it is directed outward. For anti-clockwise motion, it is directed outward. For clockwise motion, it is directed inward. For anti-clockwise motion, it is directed outward. For clockwise motion, it is directed inward. For anti-clockwise motion, it is directed outward. For clockwise motion, it is directed inward. Angular velocity SI unit is radian per second, that is angular velocity. Find angular velocity of second hand and minute hand of clock. Find angular velocity for second hand and minute hand of a clock. So SI unit is radian per second. For anti-clockwise motion, it is directed outward. For clockwise motion, it is directed inward. It is also a vector quantity. Angular velocity is vector quantity. Angular velocity is also a vector quantity. Angular velocity is also a vector quantity. Find angular velocity for second hand and minute hand of the clock. For second hand, this is omega equals to theta divided by t. Second hand, omega equals to theta by t, or this is 2 pi divided by time equals to how much? Time equals to 60. So that is pi by 30 radian per second. That is the angular velocity for second hand. So angular velocity for minute hand. Angular velocity for minute hand, omega equals to theta by t. Omega equals to theta by t. Theta equals to how much? Theta equals to 2 pi divided by, for minute hand, for the minute hand, so that is 60 minute, 1 hour. That is 60 minute. 2 pi divided by 60 into 60. So this is pi divided by 30, that is 1800 radian per second. So that is the angular velocity, omega equals to theta by t, pi by 1800 radian per second for second hand. So this is pi by 30 radian per second. For minute hand, this is pi by 1800 radian per second. So this is angular velocity. Next is instantaneous angular velocity. Instantaneous angular velocity. Instantaneous angular velocity says कि angular velocity at any instant of time. Angular velocity at any instant of time. Angular velocity at any instant of time. That is called instantaneous angular velocity. Angular velocity at any instant of time, that is the instantaneous angular velocity. Instantaneous angular velocity, omega equals to how much? Omega equals to d theta by dt, that is instantaneous angular velocity. Angular velocity at any instant of time, that is instantaneous angular velocity. Omega equals to d theta by dt, that is the instantaneous angular velocity. Next is relation between linear velocity and angular velocity. Next is the relation between linear velocity and angular velocity. Relation between linear velocity and angular velocity. Relation between linear velocity and angular velocity. So this is O, A, B. So this is theta, this is del s, this is del t. So relation between linear velocity and angular velocity. V equals to how much? V equals to del s by del t, या फिर लिमिट del t tends to 0 del s by del t. Theta equals to how much? Del s by r. Theta equals to del s by r. Theta equals to del s by r. Del s equals to r into theta, या फिर डेल्टा थीटा इक्वल्स टू del s by r. Del s equals to r into delta theta. Limit del t tends to 0. Del s is r into delta theta divided by delta t. और v equals to how much? V equals to r limit del t tends to 0 del theta by del t. V equals to r limit del t tends to 0 del theta by del t, that is d theta by dt, that is omega. V equals to omega into r. 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 So that is the relation between linear velocity and angular velocity. V is the linear velocity, omega is the angular velocity. So relation between linear velocity and angular velocity. Relation between linear velocity and angular velocity. V equals to omega into r. Angular displacement, angular velocity. Next is angular acceleration. So next is angular acceleration. Angular displacement, angular velocity, angular acceleration. Angular acceleration says कि alpha equals to omega minus omega 0 divided by t. Angular acceleration alpha equals to omega minus omega 0 divided by t. That is angular acceleration. Angular acceleration alpha equals to omega minus omega 0 divided by t. That is angular acceleration. So rate of change of angular velocity with respect to time, that is angular acceleration. Rate of change of angular velocity, rate of change of angular velocity with respect to time, that is angular acceleration. Direction: for anti-clockwise motion it is directed outward. For clockwise motion it is directed inward. For anti-clockwise motion it is directed outward. For clockwise motion it is directed inward. SI unit radian per second square. SI unit is radian per second square. That is angular acceleration. Instantaneous angular acceleration. Instantaneous angular acceleration. Instantaneous angular acceleration. Alpha equals to d omega by dt. D by dt. Omega is d theta by dt. That is d square theta divided by dt square. Instantaneous angular acceleration. Alpha equals to d omega by dt equals to d by dt d theta by dt. So that is d square theta by dt square. Instantaneous angular acceleration. Relation between tangential acceleration and angular acceleration. Relation between tangential acceleration and angular acceleration. Relation between tangential acceleration and angular acceleration. For tangential acceleration, A equals to dv by dt. D by dt, V equals to omega into R. D omega by dt is alpha. At equals to how much? At equals to R into alpha. At equals to R into alpha. So this is 0 for uniform motion. So this is 0 for uniform motion. R alpha for non-uniform motion. So this is relation between tangential acceleration and angular acceleration. At is the tangential acceleration. At is the tangential acceleration. Alpha is the angular acceleration. Alpha is the angular acceleration. So when body moves on a circular path, when body moves on a circular path, so this is the centripetal acceleration, this is the tangential acceleration. When body moves on a circular path, centripetal acceleration, this is tangential acceleration. Centripetal acceleration, then tangential acceleration. So resultant acceleration, AR is the resultant acceleration. Resultant acceleration equals to how much? AC square plus AT square root over. Resultant acceleration equals to AC square plus AT square root over. V square by R whole square at equals to r alpha whole square root over for non-uniform motion. So this is v square by r whole square plus 0 square root over. So this is for uniform motion. For non-uniform motion, for uniform motion. Relation between tangential acceleration and resultant acceleration and this tangential acceleration. Next is instantaneous angular acceleration. Instantaneous angular acceleration. Instantaneous angular acceleration. Instantaneous angular acceleration. Instantaneous angular acceleration says कि angular acceleration at any instant of time, that is instantaneous angular acceleration, that is d by dt, d theta by dt. So this is d square theta divided by dt square, that is instantaneous angular acceleration. Alpha equals to d omega by dt equals to d by dt into d theta by dt equals to d square theta by dt square, that is instantaneous angular acceleration. Angular acceleration at any instant of time, that is instantaneous angular acceleration. Angular acceleration at any instant of time, that is the instantaneous angular acceleration. Next is centripetal force. Centripetal force, then centrifugal force, then this portion completed. Centripetal force. Centripetal force says कि force which deviate moving body from linear path to move along circular path, that is centripetal force. A force which deviate a moving body from a linear path to move along circular path, that is called centripetal force. Centripetal force says कि force which deviate moving body from linear path to move along circular path, that is centripetal force. Force which deviate moving body from a linear path to move along circular path, that is centripetal force. So this is 0 A B. At point A, this velocity is v1. At point A, this velocity is v1. At point B, this velocity is v2. At point A, this velocity is v1. At point B, the velocity is v2. At point A, velocity is v1. At point B, velocity is v2. So this angle is delta theta. This angle is delta theta. So this is delta theta. This is delta V. So this is delta theta. This is delta V. So this is V1 mod equals to V. V2 mod equals to V. V1 mod equals to V. V2 mod equals to V. So delta theta equals to delta V by V. Delta theta equals to delta V by V. Delta V equals to V into delta theta. Delta V equals to V into delta theta. A equals to limit delta V divided by delta T. Limit delta T tends to 0. Delta V equals to how much? V into delta theta divided by delta T. So this is V. Limit delta T tends to 0. Delta theta by delta T. A equals to V into omega. 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 Omega is V by R. A equals to V square divided by R. A equals to V square divided by R. So this is A equals to V square by R. So this is centripetal acceleration, V square by R. A is V square by R. So centripetal acceleration equals to how much? Centripetal acceleration equals to V into omega. V omega is, so this is V into omega. So this is omega R into omega. So this is omega square into R. Centripetal acceleration equals to omega square into R. So this is mass into acceleration. A V into omega. mv square divided by r, m omega square into r. So that is the formula for centripetal force. Centripetal force is mass into acceleration, mv omega, mv square divided by r, m omega square divided by r, that is centripetal force. So omega equals to how much? Omega equals to 2 pi f. Centripetal force equals to m omega square r. So this is centripetal force. Centripetal force equals to m into 4 pi square f square into r, that is centripetal force. So work done in case of centripetal force is 0. Work done in case of centripetal force is 0. Force is directed to the center. Displacement is directed tangentially. So this angle is 90 degree. Work done in case of centripetal force is 0. Work done in case of centripetal force is 0. Work done in case of centripetal force is 0. So example of centripetal force. So this is nucleus and electron revolves around the nucleus. So electron moves in circular path. So here electrostatic force equals to centripetal force. Electrostatic force K naught ZE into E, K naught ZE into E divided by R square equals to mv square divided by R. So electrostatic force equals to centripetal force. Electrostatic force equals to centripetal force. Question is given कि AR equals to BT square, and if resultant force is F equals to N M root over of B square T square plus VR, find N. AR equals to BT square. So radial equals to V square by R equals to BT square. So V square by R equals to BT square. V square equals to how much? Vt square into r. So V equals to how much? V equals to root over of Vr into T. So A equals to how much? A equals to dV by dt. A equals to how much? A equals to dV by dt. A equals to how much? A equals to dV by dt. As A equals to dV by dt, differentiation of this value is root over of V into R. So this is a root over of B into R. Force equals to mass into acceleration. Mass into acceleration equals to how much? This is root over of B into R. So this is the tangential part. So force equals to how much? Force equals to mass into acceleration. Acceleration, that is tangential square plus centripetal square root over. Mass into root over of tangential square equals to how much? Tangential is root over of BR. Root over of BR square plus centripetal equals to how much? Centripetal equals to V square divided by, centripetal is V square divided by R. Centripetal is V square divided by R. So that equals to B R root BR whole square into T divided by R. So this is B T. So this is BT whole square. That is the resultant. Force equals to mass into acceleration. Mass into acceleration, tangential is root over of VR square plus BT whole square. That is the resultant. So solving this, n equals to 1. Comparing with this value, n equals to 1. Comparing with this value, n equals to how much? N equals to 1.